What is up, guys? We are live. Just waiting for Tommy to check in. Hope all is well.
You're live,
Tommy,
Joe.
how you doing, bro?
I'm good, Joe. I'm good. All good.
Guys, we are live this morning on Diamond Talk once again. Myself and my partner, Tommy Florio. Good morning. What is up, Tommy?
Morning, Joe. How are you on this beautiful Sunday morning?
Everything is good. Everything is good, bro. How you doing? All right?
Yeah, all good. I had a long night. I'm actually feeling a little under the weather today. I don't know. I don't know if it's a long weekend and a little bit of a long night celebrating some birthdays, but ready for some baseball talk.
Yeah, absolutely. Last night we spent it at my sister Trisha's house. We had a little every year she does this Oktoberfest, so we were all there, having
Nice.
having a couple of drinks and some good German food. But we are back today with baseball talk, pumped up. We got a special guest today, Carmine Glorioso. He'll be talking about his beloved Mets. Woo-hoo! What a week, Tom. What a week for the Mets. What a week.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, Joe. You think, things were going to change after the Will Ponds, with all the Madoff stuff and, all the stuff that went down during those times, all the money issues. And then you get the whole Showalter, David Stearns coming in. Now that are being investigated for, stashing guys on the IL. Where does it end? Where does it end?
I think it's going to give Carmine a lot of ammunition this morning. Oh, my God. Because you lose your GM and your manager in the same week, but the allegations, I mean, you know what? I got so much to say about that. I want to talk about that in a little while with Carmine, but let's get to these playoffs. I mean, playoffs, a couple of surprises. What do you got me with the playoffs?
Well, the wild card round, Joe. Let's start with the wild card round, which went quick, and they were all 2-0 sweeps. Now, I don't know. I have a hard time calling it 2 out of 3 as a sweep. It's only 2 games, but technically they won both games. So, Tampa Tampa loses out to the Rangers, and here's the Tampa team that very consistent, and I don't know how they do it. But Joe, I get the one thing I'm going to bring up about that series is less than 20,000 people in the stadium. I mean, and now they want to build a new stadium for them. I mean, I don't think it's a matter of where they're playing. I don't know. Maybe they just don't support baseball in Florida.
That's it, Tom. My fiance Rachel's son and his fiance live in Tampa, so I've been there back and forth a couple times over the last couple of years. Great town. It's a hockey town, Tom. It's a hockey town, and it was Tom Brady's town. So. Yep. It's and that stadium is just horrendous. The old one, I don't know. How do you go to the council and people downtown to look for funds? I don't know who's paying for that, but how are they going to pay for this stadium where you just you don't show up? It's crazy. But the hockey there is insane. That's a beautiful stadium, and we know what Tom Brady did for the Bucs in the last 4 years, but. That's just dreadful.
Yeah. I mean, and this is I mean, listen, I know it's not one of those marquee teams, but they win. And the problem, I think, a lot of it is that most of the people, a lot of people in Florida are transplanted from either New York or California, or whatever. So, I'm sure the place is full when the Yankees are there. I'm sure that it's full when maybe Boston's there. But Joe, it's a playoff game. I mean, I know it's the Texas Rangers. It's not a marquee matchup when. All that, but it's playoff baseball, and you get 19,000 in there, and they said that's the announced crowd. That wasn't even maybe what was in the stadium.
Right.
More,
15, right.
Yeah. So, but Tampa gets knocked out. Twins finally beat they end the 18-game losing streak in the playoffs, and they oust Toronto, another team that I think is way overrated. I'm sorry, I know they had a good season, Toronto, but Guerrero, Bichette. Biggio, they have a very talented team, and it never translates to anything. A good job by the Twinkies, man. I mean, it's nice to see different teams, the Orioles, the Rangers, the Twins, nice to see some different teams in the playoffs.
Are you like me? I mean, of course, you're a Yankee fan. I'm a Reds fan for life. We're both lifers in those teams, but I sort of like it when these small market teams, I'm rooting for the Twins now because I can't take the Astros. I
Well,
just
yeah.
can't take it. So
Yeah.
I'm rooting for the Twins, even though they have a cheater on their team with Carrera, who's a good player. I think he's a great player, but I like these small markets. You know, what I mean, even the Rangers now, who I'm high on. We'll talk about that. But I like what the Twins are doing. I got some. Some good young kids, and like I said yesterday to you, I think they're playing with house money in a way.
Oh, I would agree totally. I think they weren't expected to get to this round. They get here, and I'm pulling for the Twins. So anytime the Astros and that midget can lose, I'm all for it. I can't stand that team. But it's a good story, and let's see how it plays out in the second round. We'll get to the division games from yesterday in a minute. Of course, Arizona beats Milwaukee. The one day I came out of that series not knowing much about both teams. This kid, Corbin Carroll, is some baseball player.
Yeah.
For the Diamondbacks. I mean, he's exploded yesterday. This kid can play the game. And again, you're playing in Arizona. I guess you don't get the juice because I went through a whole season, never heard of this kid. So, that's an interesting series. And then, of course, the Phillies beat the Marlins 2-0. I guess the only, I guess you could say the Twins and the Rangers winning maybe were the biggest surprises, but I don't think I was surprised by any of the wild card round finishes.
No, not really. Again, I'm with you with that that 2-series sweep. I found that hard to but okay, I get it. But the Rangers, I'm high on the Rangers for a couple of reasons. The Rangers in 2022, I believe, won 68 and 94. I think they were 68 94. Of course, they hire who's probably got a Hall of Fame managerial record, Bruce Bochy.
Great manager.
Yeah. He comes along and they win 22 more games. And they sign DeGrom. Of course, he gets hurt. But, I like what they're doing. And don't forget who they got ready to come off the DL soon. They got Scherzer, who again, Tom, we talk about Scherzer from the Mets, that whole Met thing this year, debacle. He finished the season 13-6. Not a bad season once again for a 39-year-old. So he's coming off that bench. So I'd be watching. I'd be weary on them. I like what they're doing.
No, I agree with you. I think Bochy adds something to that team.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and they, listen, 2 years ago they went out, signed a whole bunch of players, Simeon, and they have a very talented team, and that's going to be a terrific series. We'll get to that in a minute. That's again another one of those series. Who would have thought Texas and Baltimore, in the division series, getting ready to one of them going to the league championship series. But that's a very talented team. Plays fundamentally well, and Bruce Bochy will definitely give you, I think, an edge in any series. So, a good job by them. So, yeah, I think the wild card round, it went quick. Obviously, it's only 2 out of 3 anyway. No major surprises, and now we're into the division series, and we had 4 games yesterday, Joe. And I'll start with the Dodgers series, and Clayton Kershaw gets smacked in the mouth in the first inning, and somebody said it on TV, and it was almost like they knew what was coming. I mean, they pounded and pounded and pounded, and an 11-2 loss for the Dodgers, which is kind of the history lately, Joe. They'll win 100 and something games a season, and then get in the playoffs and get kicked in the face. And this second game is going to obviously be huge. You can't go out there. You can obviously, but baseball in a 7-game series. We've all seen plenty of series turn around after 2 losses, but. The Dodgers need to go out there and, stomp a little bit on this young team who just, has no fear of them.
Yeah, Clayton Kershaw, who I love. I've always loved. A 3-time Cy Young Award. I think he's 210 and 92 in his career. Tremendous.
Yeah.
But in the playoffs, he's 13-12 with a 4.49 ERA. That's been his MO. His whole career, he's been great.
Yeah.
even though they won the World Series 3 years ago. I don't know. I mean,
See, the problem is, Joe, when you get into the playoffs, it's like the Yankees over the last 7 or 8 years. You get into the playoffs, and during the regular season, you're getting, how many series in a row can you get? Maybe you had 3, 4, 5 starters, and you beat up on those guys. But when you get to the playoffs, you're facing the best that they have. And, I think Kershaw's a Hall of Famer. I'm not going to take anything away from him, but it's the record in the playoffs speaks very loud. When you get into the playoffs and you can't come through for your team, to me, that speaks major volume about your career. It's not going to detract him from being a Hall of Famer, but it definitely gives you an argument against it.
Yes, I agree to an extent. Look, let's just play a little game. He's 35 years old. His career, I'd say he's going to win maybe 250 and probably go 250 and even 120. I doubt he'll lose 30 more games, but let's say he goes 250 and 120.
Right.
That's pretty good. 3 Cy Young awards, over 3,000. He needs like 60 strikeouts for 3,000. So, I mean, he's got a Hall of Fame resume, but it's just that playoffs,
Well, I mean, listen, Joe, I think we both agree that to me, the first thing I think about when I think of Hall of Famer was he of the 5 best at his position in his era. And you got to say Clayton Kershaw was. So then you take a look at the record, winning percentage is great. Okay. So there's a ton of reasons for it. The only negative that you could probably put is, well, I got 2. One, he gets hurt a lot. Okay. And then the second one is obviously his postseason play. He does have a championship on his resume. Now, I don't think he was necessarily great in that series, but I have to go back and take a look at it. So, yeah, he's getting in the Hall of Fame. There is no doubt about it. But, again, when you're in the room and they're arguing over is he or isn't he, the one negative that you can put up on the board is, well, when he faced the best of the best in the biggest points of his life, he was a 500 pitcher.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 13 and 12, absolutely, in the playoffs, and that's been his MO. I remember watching him a couple. I think he even blew a game in that World Series, Tom, if I remember. But good thing about he'll have a chance to redeem himself in this series at least one. But I don't know.
Yeah.
And I don't want to stay on this too long, but where are the 300 winners coming from in our future, Tom?
I don't know if they are coming, Joe, because you're only pitching 5 and 6 innings now, so you're going to leave a lot of games with a lot of time to have the outcome change. So I don't think there's a lot of records, 500 homers, 300 wins, that I don't think you're going to see a lot of anymore. I think there's a lot, there's a lot of those milestones that I think are going to be very hard to achieve, and 300 may be the one because of how they pitch nowadays.
I think Verlander, he might finish with about 270. I did some stuff on him this week. Maybe gets to 270. That's it. But you look at those. Let's say 3,000 hits, 300 wins, and 500 home runs. Would you agree that probably 500 home runs will be the one that will be reached more out of those 3?
Well, because of the way these guys are staying healthy and playing longer, I think 3,000 hits is not out of the question. I do think 500 is probably the most because they're hitting the ball. The amount of home runs that are being hit. Yeah. I would agree. I would probably agree. I think 300 wins will probably be the one that dissipates the most, if you're asking me.
I don't see that happen for a long time. Like we said, Verlander. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just think that again, the way the game is played now, where teams are in their bullpen every single game. I mean, Garrett Cole had a great season, and I think he went into the 8th and 9th inning like once or twice all year. So, I mean, guys, you get to the 5th inning, and you're immediately tied. You may be up a run or two, and you're immediately out, and then there's too much time left in the game, for that doesn't change.
I think Garrett Cole, he had one complete game with the last month, right? With the last month,
I think it was like one. It might have been his last start.
I just was looking up Bob Gibson's stats from 1968. I think he was 20 something and 4. Tom, I forgot how many complete games. I think he had like 28 complete games, but something 25 complete games that year.
Yeah.
Like you don't see that anymore. God.
No, it's a long gone era, Joe, and it changed in the 70s and it changed into the 80s, and today it's just completely different. So yeah, so 300 wins, Joe, is probably the one that's going to be the hardest to achieve based on the way they play the game today. Joe, let's move to Phillies beating the Braves. The Phillies have this magic in the playoffs lately. Bryce Harper comes to play. They played a very good game yesterday. They beat the what I thought was going to be the best. The team to beat with the Braves 3-0 to get to jump out ahead. Got great pitching, great defense. I don't know if you saw the Trey Turner play in the 8th inning on the double play. What a great play!
I didn't see it.
Yeah, amazing double play, a double diving backhand double play ball. But they played a good game, and the Braves had a few miscues. And listen, it's a good start to the series for Philly. I mean, I'm not a Philly fan or a Bryce Harper fan, but they play exciting baseball, and they're going to give the Braves a run for their money.
Yeah, I probably see that that series going the distance.
Sure.
Probably. But we talk about Bryce Harper for a second. There's a guy who I was so high on, and again, if you look at his stats, and I don't want to look at him today because we have stuff to do, but I'm saying his stats, when you look at them, nothing pops out at you. I think sometimes these players get hyped up. Do you agree?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, the kid was 16 years old on the cover of Sports Illustrated as the next Mickey Mantle. I mean, you're not getting any more hyped up than that. So I think he's had a really good career. He's obviously won, and he's had a lot of injuries. But he, like Pete D'Agostino just said, he hit a home run. I don't think it was 15 feet off the ground the entire way. I think it was a missile.
Yeah.
But he can be a very frustrating player. Phillies get off to a quick start, 1-0 in that series. And yeah, Joe, I do agree. I think that's going to be a series that will take it through 7. I would be shocked if it didn't. Maybe no surprising. And I don't know if I said it before, but 3 of the 4 division winners lost opening round of the division series. The Astros did beat the Twins 6-4 yesterday. Not a big surprise there. And the Rangers beat the Orioles 3-2. So, the Orioles, the Braves, and the Dodgers, all division winners, lose the game 1 of the division series. So, listen, who's set up to win? I don't know. Yeah, it's way too early. I don't like the way the Dodgers got smoked yesterday, but again, it's one game. History will show you that losing game 1 is nowhere an indicator of who wins the series. So, there's a lot of baseball to be played here before we get to the League Championship Series. I still like the Braves, and I still like the Dodgers to right the ship and move on to the next round. So I'm not that concerned.
Yeah. I'm going to stay with my pick, as I told you in the text. I'm going to go with the Braves and the Rangers in the World Series. I just have this thing about Bochy on this year.
I would agree with you. I think if you watch any of the Oriole game, and I got to see some of it, and I sort of highlights, they're a young team. They made a lot of mistakes yesterday. Trying to steal second base in the 9th inning down. There's miscommunications. I mean, there was quite a few other miscues. So I think the Orioles may be one of those teams that for the future are going to be very good. Not to say they can't come back and win the series, but I think the experience of the Ranger players, their manager, obviously, and the inexperience with the Orioles will be their detriment. But listen, we're going to see. It's a long way off, but lots to talk about, Joe.
Do you like the Orioles trying to steal there?
No. No, not in that spot. Too many bad things happen in that spot, and you can't take the run off the board, the opportunity off the board at that point. I mean, it's a 3-2 game. I don't know. What they said was it was a miscommunication. So I don't know if the kid went on his own and they're covering for him, right, or he read the sign wrong. I'm not really sure, but whatever it was, that's a bad spot. And if you're the kid and you're not sure, you got to step off and call time and make sure that. But the same thing on the manager. You have to make sure that everybody's on the same page at that moment.
That's a great job by you. Miscommunication. What that tells you is somebody messed up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And to me, it's the guy on the base and he's a young player,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
the manager is going to cover his ass. But you saw the reaction in the dugout, like, what the is he doing? And listen, you take the run off the board. It's momentum. Everything in the playoffs matter. Momentum is huge in the playoffs, and it's very hard to get it back. So, you know, again, listen, Texas on a roll. They've won 3 straight games in the playoffs. There's another one of those teams that were back in the '90s. Were powerhouses that just got stomped on by the Yankees.
Yeah.
And they've been in a free fall. They signed DeGrom. He doesn't play. They've made some bad moves. They had a rough spot in. I think they lost 20 of 30 at one point late in the season, and yet here they are. And now it's about momentum, and they're starting to get it. So again, I think that series is going to be over fast. I'll be surprised if that doesn't go 5 games and over.
Yeah. Now, what do you think? Have you heard anything about Scherzer coming back in the series?
I have not seen anything about it. So when you said it, I was surprised. I thought it was going to be more about the LCS,
Right.
but who knows? But yeah, I mean, he's going to help. I mean, he's a guy. He's been there. He's been in big spots, and he's played well. I don't know what happened with him and the Mets. It could have been a clubhouse culture. It could have been him and Verlander don't like each other. I don't know why it didn't work for him in New York. But we talked about this last week. Some guys just don't do well here.
Yeah. We talk about momentum, and I think if the Rangers, let's say the Rangers go up 3-0, maybe of course, you don't got to tell Bochy. He's great at it. You don't got to tell him I'm up 3-0. Let me definitely rest him more for the LCS.
Yeah, I would say if you don't need him here, maybe you want to bring him in the game to get him maybe some work in a blowout game or a game they're up, get an inning or two just to get his feet wet and throw a little bit. But at this point, they've pitched all year. He's a veteran. To me, if he's not 100% and an extra 2 weeks helps, I would definitely not play him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I would want. That's a guy you want. He's been a good pitcher. He's been a great pitcher. And again, he's got some postseason success. I wouldn't use him unless he's ready.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
we talking about the races. And I don't want to get too much in the Hall of Fame. Every day somebody just makes me want to crash my car into the nearest pole. Especially on the fan where we throw the Hall of Fame around. Again, we do it this week. I'm not sure if Joey Votto is done. 17-year career on my team, the Reds. I always keep it real. Very good player. If you want to call him great, I don't know. Very good player. But Tom, if you look at his stats, I mean, we throw this Hall of Fame around like it's every day. It drives me crazy. It really does.
Well, again, I'm going to bring it up for you real quick before we get to Carmine, who we're going to talk about.
Tom,
his
I'm
Mets.
sorry. Joey Votto and Keith Hernandez, you would not believe the comparisons. Almost same hits, but Hernandez has 11 gold gloves. Votto has 1. That's the huge difference. If we're going to start putting these guys in, oh, man.
Okay, so Votto over his career, 1,171 runs, 2,100 hits, 450 doubles, 22 triples, 350 homers, 1,144 RBIs. And a 294 batting average. Again, not terrible numbers. Let's see. So he's had 1 MVP year. Why is this in a way, Joe?
1 gold glove. 1 gold glove.
Yeah, 1 MVP year, 1 MVP 2 year, 1 MVP 3 year. Led the league. Let's see, where is his league? Led the league in RBIs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and run. That's walk. Sorry. So he led the league in walks a bunch of times, OPP a few times, slugging once. It's a good career. Again, if you look at the numbers, they're good. I guarantee you, I don't know. If you're asking me, Joey Votto's not a Hall of Famer. I would tell you by the eye test. I would tell you I never thought he was a top 5 in his position. I also don't look at the numbers and get thrilled. It's not terrible, Joe. I mean, over the course of a 162-game season, he's 92 runs, 168 hits, 36 doubles, 2 triples, 28 homers, 90 RBIs. It's a good career.
Yeah, and I always love. He always has class on the field. I think he'd be even a great manager one day. I'm serious. I love Joey Votto, but do we just want to keep putting people in the Hall of Fame just because we have to? Like, I don't. It's the Hall of Fame. It isn't the club. It isn't the club of the very good. It's the club of the elite, the best of the best.
Yeah, I get it, but there is something to what you said, and they're going to want to put you can't go 3 years in a row without putting somebody in. I mean, I think they've had it a few times where they've only had one person. Again, I would rather put nobody in, to be honest with you. I'm with you on it, but I think we're long past it. The standards have been lowered. Do I see guys who deserve to be in? We talked about it. Dale Murphy, I don't know why he's not in. Dave Parker, to me, probably deserves to be in. And especially based on what you see getting in now with the guys like Harold Baines and the like. If Joey Votto gets in, is it going to ruin my day? No. I think Joey Votto's a really good player, bordering on great. But yeah, and yeah, right, Pete. Here's the thing, I always say this: if you go through the steps, you got to have something that jumps out. And if it's all average and there's no championships, then it kind of does. If you guys had major postseason success, or you have something to hang your hat on. It's kind of like the Eli Manning thing. Eli Manning as a regular season quarterback is okay. He's a really good quarterback. He's on the border. But when you add in the postseason and the runs, to me, takes it to he's a Hall of Famer. Not to bring in too much football here, but so that's what to me, there's got to be something that says this guy stood out and why he stood out. And Votto, good player, no real postseason success. I'd vote no on Joey Votto in the Hall of Fame.
And they got Buster Posey already in. I mean, please don't get me started.
Yeah, again, you just got to remember, Joe. One, they're going to put somebody in every year. Two, the obvious is they've lowered the standards. I mean, you can't look at the guys who got in early and then not say, now where it changed, I'm not sure. I'd love to go back in time and look through each year's and say, yeah, great. Wait, what happened here? And then see what class of Hall of Famers, where it changed. To me, the easy answer off the top of my head is somewhere in the 80s when Pee Wee Reese and Phil Rizzuto got in. Good players, but not Hall of Famers. But it could have been before that. But to me, that's the first time I remember going, I read Phil Rizzuto stats. He was a good player, but I don't know about a Hall of Fame. But Pee Wee Reese got in, and then Ted Williams went to bat for Rizzuto and got everybody to vote for him. So
I remember my father was a big baseball fan. Always tell me about Phil Rizzuto. He told me, I said, how is he as a player? He goes, he was a great bunter.
Yeah, he was. And he was a great bunter. The guy taught bunting for years in Yankee training camps, spring training. But, he was a really good shortstop on great teams. But again, just not a great player. So, and you're right. But Buster Posey in the big, sometimes, Joe, you could do things in the big stage that will elevate. And Derek Jeter is a prime example of that. I mean, Derek Jeter is a great player. He was a Hall of Famer, no doubt. But Derek Jeter did big things on the big stage, and it stood out in people's minds. That's what you're going to remember.
Yeah, but look at Jeter's stats to Buster Posey. Pete, do me a favor. Pete, do me a favor when you get a chance. Look at Buster Posey's stats. 1,500 hits. That's all he has. I mean, I know sometimes the World Series helps these guys, but I don't know. I just don't see the guy as a whole.
No, Joe, I certainly agree with you on that. All I'm saying is a guy like Buster Posey has a few big World Series, and he did. And he has some big playoff series, and he did. And next thing you know, in the national eye, that's what you see. Joe, 99% of the people who watch baseball have no idea what Buster Posey did in the regular season, how much he played. But baseball fans, you watch, especially in today's day and age with all the social media, you're bombarded with this stuff, and then all you know is that he had big playoff series and big World Series, and how great. Tim Lincecum was an average pitcher, but in the World Series the guy was great. So
right. Yeah,
that's Pete's right. the big games magnify it, and I think that's a big part of today.
Yeah, and look what he said about also. I think he said before the lack of World Series tarnishes that, like
Sure,
Joey Votto.
Absolutely,
Good
100%.
job.
We talked about Kershaw. If I sat in a room and everybody said, "Yeah, Clayton Kershaw's a Hall of Famer," I go, "Yep, absolutely." But look at his postseason when it really mattered. And you're right, Pete Mattingly's a big example of that too.
Mattingly, that's a great job by Pete D'Agostino, bringing up Mattingly. He just ended, and they went. So let's say he plays 3 more years, Tom, and he wins 3 World Series. Now is he a Hall of Famer probably?
Oh, absolutely. Well, 3 more years would have probably done it, Joe. I think that Mattingly's career was just a little short, and if somebody voted him in, and I do believe that someday Don Mattingly gets him, based on the way it's going now. Mattingly for 5 or 6 years was the best player in baseball. There is no arguing. There is no doubt about it. The problem for Mattingly, Pete's right. No postseason, got him one. He had some success, but the team lost. And I think if he had had a couple of more years and gotten 1 or 2 rings, I think there's a bigger cry to get him in there. I do believe he does get in at some point. 10 years from now, Don Mattingly's on one of those veteran committee ones, and Don Mattingly gets in.
It'd be nice. I know you're not as high as me on Keith. It'd be nice if they both win the same day.
Listen, they're going to be compared to each other for a long time. I think Keith Hernandez is a really good player. Maybe been the best first baseman I've ever seen, but Mattingly was just a tick below that as a first baseman, but a much better hitter. I mean, a much better hit, more power, all of that. That's the only reason why I don't believe that it's equal, but they are always going to be compared to each other.
I got to give you props because I did some stuff this week. I was looking at stats between Votto and Mattingly and Keith Hernandez. They're all really close, but I got to be honest, keep it real, and good job by you. If you look at the years they played, I think Mattingly played 3 years less than Votto and Hernandez. For the years they played, the best player out of all 3 is Mattingly. If you look at his stats and everything he did. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can never say that either Votto or Hernandez was the best player in baseball at any point. They were great players, good players, but Mattingly from 84 through 88, 89 was the best player in baseball, and by far. So, again, it's an argument that hopefully someday they'll have. I would not be mad if Mattingly got in as a fan, as he was my guy growing up. But if you're asking me truthfully, he falls a little short. He just falls a little short.
Do you know how his father taught him how to hit?
No idea.
So his father would throw him tennis balls, Tom.
Mm-hmm.
And on a tennis ball, he'd mark a number. So when it went around, he would ask Mattingly after the pitch, because you could see the number like that. He would ask what the number was. To get his – because he probably had – I'm going to be honest – he probably had one of the top 3 swings I've ever seen. Just so perfect and balanced. Oh God, he was a natural.
Yep, I don't know. Absolutely, I still Griffey's the best swing I think I've ever seen. But that's pretty close. Hey Joe, obviously this time of the year it's the hot seat, and we got a whole bunch of managers this year on the hot seat: Bob Melvin, Aaron Boone, Phil Nevin and the Angels. Now John Schneider with the Blue Jays. Dusty Baker. There's a lot of guys. Craig Counsell, Alex Cora, the Red Sox. But the hammer fell this week on one. And we're going to bring on our guest in a second. But, the Bucs Showalter firing. And here's the only thing I have to say about it. I'll let it play out with Carmine in a second. Why did they have to fire him before the season ended? Why did they have to force him to resign, fire, whatever you want to call it? Then why couldn't the season play out, wait a week, and then bring him in and say, Buck, we're not bringing you back? That, unless he forced the issue, I don't understand it.
I got so much to say. I think they did it so wrong for probably going to be a Hall of Fame manager. I texted you during the game. I texted you last Sunday, and you said, he's fired already? They had it already leaked.
Yeah.
How do you do this whole organization? I tell you.
You think that with the new owner, things would change around, but it's the same old stuff. Then, Showalter gets fired. He obviously leaks out to the press about the whole Vogelback thing. You know, how he was basically being forced. Of course, it was anonymous sources, but it's got to be Showalter. Next thing you know, that's all over the papers that he was forced to use Vogelback, and and the next thing they have the Stearns thing, and there's Epler sitting there. Next thing 2 days later, Epler's out. It's I don't know if it's the same old Mets thing. I don't know, but my only take, I thought Buck got too much credit the first year for the 101 wins. I think he's taking too much of the beating now, but I understand, new president of the league, of the team, and he wants to come in there and put his own stamp on it. I understood getting rid of Buck, don't get me wrong, but did you have to do it before the last game of the season? That, to me, was a kick in the balls to a guy who didn't deserve that.
Before Carmine, that's an interesting point by Pete D'Agostino. Pete's on fire this morning. Will you take a chance with Buck with the Yankees?
No, not as a manager. I would bring him back and give him a front office, like be the kind of the new Stick Michael. But I would not put Buck back in the dugout. I think Buck's time has passed. So no, I would not take Buck back as a manager. As a guy in the front office, working with the development of the minor leagues. Absolutely. I don't think there's enough of the old timers on these staffs anymore. So yes, I would absolutely bring him back, but not as a manager.
Cool.
So good, Joe. It's all you. So we're talking about managers and that. You want to cue up Carmine?
Yeah, let's bring on our guest. Big, huge Met fan, and I'm sure he's going to be very relaxed today, not too hyper, talking about the great New York Mets. Let's bring on Carmine Glorioso. Carmine, Joe Gansas, and Tom Florio. What's up, brother?
Joe, Tommy, good morning. How you guys doing?
What was that?
Good morning, Carmine.
It's 4 fingers. This is a thumb chaser. You get tapped in a keister, and that's just to make your zinger feel a little bit better. My season ended in June. I wasn't confused about it. I wasn't aggravated about it. But first, before we even go there, I'm just curious, Tom, Joe, where did you have the Rangers finishing this year before the season started?
Oh, nowhere near the top. Nowhere near where they did, Carmine.
68 fucking games.
Yep.
Same team, right?
Yeah.
Now, my piece of shit team won 101 games last year. They weren't that good, but they're not this fucking bad. And when I hear all the pissing and people like you fucking rat fuck, Tom, who just piss all over the fuck scumbag and that midget Pete. I don't got a picture for Pete, but if I did, trust me, it would be fucking Mishu. But let me get off that. The truth of the matter is, we're talking about very funny, Joe. You're a Red fan.
I'm a Red
fan. And that scumbag's wearing a Yankee jersey. What a surprise.
Okay, so Carmine, you say your team is not that bad. I happen to agree in extent. What happened this year? Because they're a mess.
Everything that could go wrong went wrong. But I'll tell you what a lot of it was. Last year, when there was a runner on third and there was one out, they wouldn't try to pull the ball. They wouldn't try to hit home runs. Pete Alonso, the whole bunch of them would hit the other way where there was nobody playing when they had to shift. And just because they stopped the shift to a certain degree, okay, let me shut this off. Otherwise, this is going to bust everybody's balls for a long time.
Who's that? Buck Showalter calling you?
My dog shit phone. Tommy, my wife threw it at me last night because, I don't know, I said, can you pass? I thought I said, can you pass the cornflakes to me? And I said, you ruined my fucking life, you bitch. And she threw the phone at me. Now the phone's fucked. I got to go get that done. Like the Mets season. Yeah, and even the Jet season was fucked. But maybe that's for a different story or not. But getting to what they did with Buck, I don't give a fuck. And I'll tell you why. He was going one way or the other. Was it what they did when they sent them to the coast and he flew across country at 2 o'clock in the morning? They said, we're letting you go. If you know you're letting them go, why the fuck did you make them make that flight?
But how do you do this? I'm saying Carmine, how do you do this? You know, in the WBC, your closer goes down,
Yep.
celebrating on the mound. Then you trade
That
Robinson.
fucking pissed me off.
You trade everybody. You trade everybody, but you keep Vogel back.
Well, that's all about the piece of shit GM. So the GM looks like a fucking asshole. Why I don't have a problem that they cut him. I wish they would have fucking fired him a month ago just for more of a bull kick. Because if a manager like him, I'll say this, last year, he put challenges out on certain calls, on rules that I'm like, what the fuck's he talking about? I didn't know, and I know baseball my whole life. And I'm like, holy shit, this fucking guy is the difference of a real good manager and some of the stiffs that we've had as managers. But to me, if you're a guy like him, fuck you. I'm doing it my way. That fat guy with a pair of fucking tits and a fucking stomach bigger than mine, I fucking could have hit better than him. And he stayed in the lineup every night. I'm like, what the fuck? They bring the kid Vientos up. His first game hits a home run to tie it. What has he done the next 2 days? He's on a fucking bench. And that fat fuck is in.
Did you like Buck last year? Honestly.
I did. I'm not saying he was. And listen, it's Tommy said it. I've always said it. Baseball managers get the biggest props when they win, and they take the fall for the team fucking sucking. And it's though he did make Joe. He made a lot of fucking bonehead decisions this year. Scratching my head, I'm like, he'd have a pitcher warming up, a certain situation, a lefty on a lefty. He waits. Bases loaded, guy gets up a grand slam. He doesn't put him in, and then he puts him in right after that. I'm like, what the fuck is he doing? And he did that all year.
Well, go, Joe.
I'm sorry, Tom. How does a manager go so high on your list in a year? Like last year, everybody loved him. Now, before the last game of the season, he's coming out, and the whole team's embracing him by the on-deck circle. What happened to Buck? You think Tommy's right that maybe the game's too much for him now? It passed him by?
I just, all these managers now, run it the way you fucking run it. You got a gut feel. You got a smell to it. I mean, anybody that watches the fucking game, you don't even have to be a general manager or a manager. You watch Vogelback. His swings were shit. It wasn't like he was hitting the balls on the screws. He didn't do shit, and he can't fucking move. So are you kidding me that this guy's even fucking playing? He should be playing a pinch hitter. That's it. Because you got to know your capabilities are. I'd be fucking embarrassed fucking trying to run around at fucking 280. Look like me when I played with fucking Smitties in my later fucking in my 30s. I mean, come on.
Here's the problem, Carmine, for me with Buck, and I think Buck's a fantastic mind. And you're right, he did that last year with a bunch of different rule change, different rules that nobody knew. And I think he's always the smartest guy in the field. The problem was last year he got credit for all of that, and he deserved it. And they won 101 games, and he was manager of the year and all that good stuff, and everything goes with it. The problem I have this year is he's got to take the heat for a team that played lackluster baseball, that made way too many mistakes in the field. So as the manager, if you're taking the credit, you got to take the heat. So, you go from 101 wins, you get bounced by the Padres in the playoffs first round, and then you have the season you have this year. And by all accounts, probably lost the locker room. But here's the bigger problem, Carmine. How many of their players did they re-sign? Everybody wanted McNeil re-signed. He had a terrible season. Everybody loved the Scherzer, Verlander signings. They didn't work out. There's only so much that Buck can control, but at the end of the day, you're the manager. You won 60-something games, 70-something games. You're going to go. Only thing I felt was he didn't deserve to get forced out or fired or resign and announced then. It should let the season play out, and then after the season, you announce that. That's the only thing that I disagree with the Mets on that one.
All right, and here's the real point of the matter that people are just really not taking into account. I don't know why. It wasn't like Stearns was announced, in November. He announced that they announced that thing before the end of the season, And if you think there wasn't a conversation with them at that point and him saying, look, Buck, and Buck probably didn't like the way things were going. And he maybe said, hey, I want to bring in my own guy. If there was no new guy coming in, if this Stearns wasn't in, there's no reason they should have fired Buck. I wouldn't have had a problem with him staying. However, once the new guy came in, I went, he's fucking done. And and I was saying to him, I'd be surprised if the fucking GM survives it.
Yeah, it's a good point.
That's my whole thing about this. And guys, we're live on Diamond Talk with our guest Carmine Glorioso. He's been so kind to join us this morning. Do you think there's problems internally, bro? Because we've seen this year with the Scherzer and Verlander. Then Scherzer was talking after he got traded. Now the GM. You think there's problems internally there?
No.
No?
I think that is when things start. Did you hear anything last year? The same group of jerk offs were in there, right?
Well,
the same shortstop who said, "I will buy you a fucking car." And I mean, dude, not for nothing. It's not that fucking McNeil would need him to buy, but you open your fucking mouth. I don't give a fuck if you got him a Yugo. Buy a fucking car. Let them see something. You're worth $330 million that you're really not fucking worth. You fucked over the fucking Mets and baseball with that fucking contract that you fucking raped them with. So have some decency. But, I mean, you didn't hear that shit when they won 101 games. But when they fall in the face and everybody has a dog shit year, I mean, even though Alonso hit 45, 46 homers, whatever the hell he hit, he batted .213. Oh, but his slugging was .78. Who gives a fuck? I don't care if it was fucking 1,500. You got a fucking 130 RBIs, but and you got the whole team. Nobody could fucking hit in the clutch. I seen a fucking a group of antelope on the fucking bases, and nobody able to get them in, unless a big game from. The shortstop every now and then will have 7 or 8 RBIs in a game, and when it don't matter, he starts fucking hitting and he gets to the 30-30 club.
Hey, come on, you bring up Pete Alonso, and that seemed to be the biggest topic for the Mets, other than some of the, which I think is this whole disabled list stacking. Everybody does that shit.
They all do, right?
Yeah.
It's a big fucking deal.
Yeah, to me, you're not going to tell me that that all these teams don't put a guy on the DL that isn't hurt just to keep them. Everybody does it.
Sure.
So whether it's the biggest scam in the world, but the Pete Alonso thing's been the big topic, and obviously the Mets, put him out there at the trade deadline, and he's obviously out there now. And if you're Cohen, now Alonso hires Scott Boras, so here it goes, here comes the money. But as a Met fan, here's a guy who's in his 30s, who's basically a slugger. He's not a great first baseman. He doesn't run.
Stop. Don't say it. The kid fucking at first base. All they talked about, well, we really don't have a glove. The fucking guy does nothing but make play after make play. He's not Keith Hernandez. No. He's not Mattingly, but he's not a blowjob.
No. But my point is, listen. When Don Mattingly lost his power, he still hit for average. He still was a great first baseman. My point with Alonso is sluggers get to a point in their career where they lose that. Look, I mean, Pete brought up Stanton 100%. Stanton is worthless right now to the Yankees.
No, he's a blowjob. He's not worthless.
I got you. But to me, do you want to give Alonso 8 years, 10 years at $40 million?
No.
Oh, that's the point. So,
Tom, he has a delusion of he sees what Judge got. Yeah. And I say you can't compare the two.
No.
Besides, what Judge this year proved that if he wasn't there last year, you would have fucking fell on your face last year. He fucking carried you guys last year.
Absolutely.
And I don't think Pete Alonso is capable of that. However, where in the fuck are you going to find a guy to replace 40 homers? Just, we'll do it collectively. Collectively, my balls. It ain't fucking there. So what do? You let him go, but his delusion is he thinks he's worth $40 million. No. So the first baseman on the Braves, what is he getting? Like 21, 22 million that he signed for? He's going to be, in my opinion, 28 to 30 million is the fucking most that he's probably going to get out there. He might get more, but the question is, you're right. Is it worth it?
Here's what you're going to get. I'm sorry. Whoever signs Alonso, here's what you're going to get. Maybe he bats 220, maybe bats 230, 160 strikeouts a year, but you'll get 45 home runs. You'll get $110 in the RBIs. I guess the number I've been throwing out in my head, and I want to ask Carmine about this, 7 years, 210. I don't know. 30 million?
That sounds fair to me, but he's got to come to the realization of it's like the running backs, okay? I hate to bring this up, but it's exactly that. Your fucking quarterbacks are Danny Dimes. He's fucking making $40 million a year, and then you got one of the best running backs in football who struggles to stay on the field. Obviously, I don't give a fuck if it was Jim Brown back there. He'd still be getting, maybe money that the guy from San Francisco gets, but that position doesn't call for it.
Tommy, I know. I'm sorry. I can read your mind already. He don't deserve 7 years. I understand that, but you got to understand in today's market now he's got Scott Boras, so he's going to be starting high.
Sure,
so
I agree with you, but the problem is if you're Cohen and you're building a team, and I know nobody does it, okay, but tell me that large contract that worked out. Give me the guy who got 8-10 years, and
none of them do.
Right. So here, if you're Cohen, here's what I'm saying to myself: am I going to win a World Series in the next 2 or 3 years? Maybe. If I trade Pete Alonso, okay, if I sign Pete Alonso to a 7-year, 8-year deal, because that's what's going to take to sign him with Boras, okay, how much of that contract is going to be useless? To me, the last 3 years for sure.
But if you're saying 8 years, he's probably going to be 35, 36, 37. That's not, it's not an age, even though he's a big fucking burly guy, he's not fucking Vogelback. But I do understand what you're saying.
No, but it's the slugger thing. The sluggers don't age well. None of them age well. So think about it, Carmine. 2 or 3 years from now, the guy's in his early 30s and he's hitting 35 homers, 34 homers. Is he the same player? Is he worth that money? All I'm saying is, do I want to sign? If I'm the Mets, do I want to sign him? Yes. To me, I give him a 5-year deal, $35 million, overpay him a little bit for 5 years and say, have good 5 years, I'll give you another 5.
But Tom, I agree with you a lot, Tom, what you said. But again, you got Boras. He doesn't want to be in that 150 million. He wants to. He wants to be close to 300 million, Carmine. Boras.
We all know that. But at the end of the day, if you're Cohen and you're a businessman, when you can't take.
You got to draw a line. You're right about that.
Yeah.
But if the guy's asking for 35, 40 million, here's what you got to do. You say, guys, they don't age well. How about this cocksucker? A fucking guy's an Adonis, and he has the twat the size of the fucking Grand Canyon.
It's 100%. And I never liked the deal from the beginning for the Yankees to bring him on.
I giggle when they get. I said, first it's like the riches get richer, and I'm like, well, this fucking guy. One thing against the Mets, he was either he lit them up, or you could have tied 5 bats together and he couldn't fucking make contact. And that's what he goes to. When he's on, he's fucking deadly.
When is he playing?
If he's playing. If he doesn't get this, Joe. If I didn't pop him with this.
If you're the Mets, you want him, you overpay him for 5 years. Give him $35 million a year for 5 years.
Even if you said $40 million, I know what you're saying. He'll never take it. I think that's the right thing.
Right. But the problem is, at that point, if you're Cohen, are you willing? To me, if he's not going to take that deal, trade him now. He's worth something. If you wait 2 years,
there isn't. He's got this year, and then he's a free agent.
I got you. That's why you trade him now. That's why you trade. I think you trade the guy. The minute he signed Boras as his agent, that told me he's going for the top dollar.
So Lindor will be the top fucking guy there. Get the fuck out of here.
Listen, I'm not disagreeing, but again, there's too much. And listen, I love Judge. I didn't want to see him get 10 years, but I knew that you weren't going to get him any other way. And for the next 3 or 4 years, he'll be a great player. But that contract will be an albatross just like Stanton's contract is on the Yankees.
They all
Carmine, where do we go here, brother? Where do we go here with the Mets? What do you want in the next manager?
Well, here's what not even just the manager. Fuck the manager. It's really how they're going to build this team. And I'll say this about the owner that I'll hear like some of my jerk off Yankee fans, not my friend Tommy, but some of the other fucking jerk offs who just spew venom at any chance. It's worse than fucking when it was with Wilpon. Get the fuck out of here. I never had an inkling in my mind that the Mets were going to go after anybody with those jerk offs in.
Yeah.
Not a chance. But this guy did something that I know the fucking Yankee guys will never do. He said, you know what? These 40-year-old fucking guys, I'd like to say they're going to do well and they're going to be the ones that are going to be there to take us. I got to take my fucking losses. So he pays half their fucking salary just to get him the fuck out of here. He's paying, $25 million per year for each of them for the next year. So he's losing the money that he's got to lay. He's laying out $100 million, and now they're going to be getting this guy, like Houston was like, oh, great. We're getting it for $20 million. That's a steal for us.
Mm-hmm.
It is. And I know this owner who has the balls to do that will not say, I'm not going to spend any money. We'll see. If he doesn't go after Shohei Ohtani should be a score because now he's injured. And now you got to ask yourself, are you going to fucking lay out money? He's coming off this type. He's going to need the surgery, right?
Yeah. He had the surgery, I think.
Oh, so he did have the surgery. All right. Had the surgery. He's fucked for next year.
Maybe he's going to hit next year, but he won't pitch next year.
Right. So how many teams are going to say, you know what, fuck it. I'll still pay him a fucking exorbitant amount of money. Forget about the shirt sales and the ticket sales and all the other bullshit that comes. He's going to, if he spends, and let me just say something stupid, $55 million for this fucking stuff. He's going to get back probably 15 to 20 million in endorsements and everything else.
Well, they say he's worth $1 million a start. Legitimately, with everything he does, it's $1 million every time he starts a game.
I wouldn't touch him. That's just me, Carmine.
Without him, Joe, with him getting hurt, that throws it into there. But Alonso's never had a hitter in a lineup like that.
But Carmine, you ask yourself. I'm sorry. You ask yourself this: how much longer can he keep doing this? Ohtani hitting and pitching. I don't know how much.
Maybe 5 years. So that would mean 3 more years, maybe as a pitcher. 3 more, and you're gonna have to pay him now. But if he was a pitcher and a hitter, you're probably looking at 55 to 60 million.
They're talking. One guy was talking 60 to 70 million.
No, not now.
Not me.
Maybe. I know. I got you, but not after the injury. No chance. No fucking chance. Who would be that dumb? Not even my fucking owner. But he does have the balls that I think he's going to go after pitching. He's going to go after the other Japanese guy. We got fucking Senga. They'll start bringing everybody in. I'll start eating fucking sushi on a daily basis. What do you want me to do? What the fuck? Am I saying anything wrong?
I don't think Ohtani comes to the East Coast. I think the guy
may not.
The West Coast. I don't think it is. I think if the money's outrageously different, maybe he goes to the Mets. It's possible.
Right. I'm not saying they're a favorite, Tom. I mean,
I
just want to know that he goes. I don't want to hear, well, he was too expensive or he wasn't going. Make the fucking biggest offer on him. If someone else is at 55, be it 60. Someone's at 50, be it 55. Right, Joe?
Sure.
Watch. And if he doesn't go, fine.
Watch the Dodgers. I think Tommy alluded to that a couple weeks ago. Watch the Dodgers and watch the Rangers. They've been spending money there, and they got money there. Watch those 2 teams for him. I don't know. I just have this funny feeling.
I think the one thing that I like your owner, but the one thing I think he started this out as, he came in as an owner, and I think he tried to build his team as a fan, because he comes out there and says, I'm going to win a World Series in the first 3 to 5 years.
Tom, he said that.
Spend the money. No. And
he said that just to say it.
No. I get it. I get it. No. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it. You should have expectations. My point is, I think what happened is this year he said, I got to stop being a fan. I got to be a businessman, and I got to build this team the right way. And I like it. I like the fact that he bounced those two guys out there. I think they were trouble in the clubhouse. I think they didn't like each other. I think bringing in Stearns was a good move. I think he said, I can't and I think the Alonso thing is perfect. If he was doing it as a fan, he would have signed Pete to whatever he wanted to. He never would have tried to trade him. Now he's saying, I need to build this from the ground up, and I need to be long-term, and I think he's going to do a good job of it. And I think I'll give him credit for all of that, because I think at the end of the day, the early part of this was, let me bring in the two best guys. He brought in Scherzer and Verlander. Didn't work out. Big money.
Gave it a try. I'm glad.
Yeah.
Tommy, I'm glad they didn't give the money to the stiff in Texas. I knew he was broken.
Again, and I think that's where I think
I loved him.
Yeah, of course. But again, I got to be on the field to do it. So I think Cohen's done a nice job, and I think he's proven he'll spend the money. But I think now he wants to spend it the better way and build this thing from the ground up and not be a fan owner, be an owner. And I think that's smart.
Come on, do you throw money at who's the guy on the Padres, Tom, the lefty? That's
Soto?
Yeah. Do you like Soto? You like
Honestly,
Soto?
The last few years he's looked pretty he looks like nothing of the kid that was in fucking Washington.
Yeah.
But not horrible. Not horrible.
No, he's a good player, Joe. The problem is, again, another guy who could have looked for $40 million a year, and you don't want to tie that kid up. I wouldn't, as a Yankee fan, I take him, but not an outrageous money and on a long-term deal.
But guys, I think we have to, and Tommy, you said it a couple weeks ago, I don't know if you agree, Carmine, I think we almost have to put, I know this sounds stupid, what I'm about to say, we have to just look at the money and say, the money's the money. These players
is with all these teams. Now they're all spending.
If a guy gets 35 or 42, are you going to cry about 7? Like,
no, it's the years, Joe. It's not the money. It's the years.
They're going to get these contracts because you look at what's his name, his teammate on the shortstop, Machado. He got a big contract too. So the money's
I don't mind giving a guy 30 and 40 and $50 million a year. Forget it. It is what it is. I don't like giving 10-year deals. To me, 3 to 5 year deals, because the back end of those deals, not one of them, Cano, Abreu, not Abreu, Pujols, none of those deals ever work out. None of them. It just doesn't work.
Tommy, it'll never happen.
I know.
Why it'll never happen? Because then it would be called collusion. I mean, what you're saying is logic, but they'll be going, there's got to be collusion, and they'll have every fucking thing come in, because each GM is going to say, fuck this, we're not going more than 5 years. And if they all stuck to it, which they won't, because they're like fucking snakes in the grass.
All you need is one idiot. All you need is
one
idiot.
Fuck this. But what you're saying is like the good old days with Branch Rickey. Yeah. And, those type of guys that own teams. Ralph kind of hits 54 homers, and he says he comes in for a raise, and he's like, we could lose 120 games without you next year. And that's something that then, okay, those guys didn't have any leverage. Leverage was come up your ass and go.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. So, again, will it happen? Sure. But as a Yankee fan, I wouldn't sign Soto to a 10-year deal. Does he make them better? Sure. I'd rather have Bellinger. If I'm a Yankee fan, I'd rather have Bellinger for a 3-year deal, give him good money, and I'll live with a Bellinger more than I think a Soto or a Machado or some of those other guys.
Carmine, what's this talk about Craig Counsell? You heard Craig Counsell coming to the Mets. Have you heard anything about that?
Anybody that grabs a bat and sticks it over his fucking head like this to start, I used to look at him and go, what the fuck is this jerk off doing? He's going to drop the bat down and get hit in motion anyway. They said a list of guys, and here's a couple of names that I wouldn't fucking say no to. Don Mattingly, because he's got experience. If you want to get someone with experience, it's probably, if it's not Counsell, I wouldn't mind it being a Mattingly. I wouldn't mind it even being a Beltran. And all the shit they talk about with the fucking, what is he, the poster child of fucking evil?
I got a name that I haven't heard. I'm sorry, Tom.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go, Joe. No, go, Joe. Go.
I got a name that I haven't heard. What happened to Mike Scioscia?
I don't know.
I would think, though, Joe, a guy like him, is one of those like the old timer, like a Girardi. Fuck you. I'm not. I'll look at these analytics to a certain degree, but I'm doing what the fuck I want. I'm not putting Vogel back in because you signed fucking Ruff. And I mean, come on, man. I watched that type of shit, and I was like, how the fuck do you justify playing? And that's why I lost all respect. Did I lose you?
No, we hear you. Still
yeah, come on.
Oh, there it is. Something I touched to set it up. But I don't know how you have guys like that. Yeah. Or Tom, Joe, it could be this. Tommy, can you explain this to Joe?
Yeah, I got you.
Through here, it's a pink thing and a chocolate thing. And then there's always the thumb chaser as respect. Now, I got a question for you guys. Is this the Mets or the Yankees this year?
I wouldn't doubt it's going to be the Yankees at this
No,
point. I think
no, that's the Mets.
well,
How about this one?
That's the Jets.
Yeah.
That's the Jets.
The both of those were the Jets and the Mets. Who is this year?
We can't see the pick. There it is.
Shot to the nuts. That's the Yankees. I wonder if you could tell me which this one is. It fucking imploded, exploded.
Yes. Yes.
20 feet under the water. And then,
listen, you're the Yankees. You need a left fielder, second baseman, probably a catcher, third baseman, and a closer. You're not fixing that in one season.
How about this? I bet you they both make the playoffs next year.
I don't know. I think the American League
not easy, but
yeah, I don't know. I think the Yankees are going to suffer for a year or two, unless these kids all work out, which I am not high on any of them at this moment.
Well, one of the kids we had, they were saying in the beginning of the year, I don't want to, and Buck was saying it, I don't want to see fucking Alvarez up here. They're all saying he's not good defensively. He doesn't block the ball well. He doesn't call a game. You watch him in a fucking game, and they had this Thomas Nito, who fucking, I think I could hit better if you stabbed out one of my fucking eyes. That guy was, and he couldn't catch for shit. And I'm like, what the fuck are they talking about? And the kid comes up, and now he's blocking balls in the dirt, keeping everything in front of him, throwing, and I'm like, and he's hitting. No, we don't want to do that. You should have had Mercurio up. When you realize that this was dog shit, and trust me, June, this season was over.
Yeah.
If you wanted to make an impact and see what you have and say, are these kids going to be the ones that are for real? Beatty looked like it, and then he didn't look like it. So leave them up there, and all of a sudden, it's like with your kid Volpe. It was a point there he looked like fucking dick on a stick. And then he battled through, and look how he looked by the end of the season.
I think there's a lot of upside to some of these kids for both teams, but I didn't see enough from any of them to say they're definites.
Yeah, well, right. So then you got to go out. Now, I'm confident my guy's going to try and spend money. I'm questioning your guy having the balls to say, listen, Stanton, here's what we're going to do. Get him the fuck out of here. We go him $100 million. We'll pay $50 million. Someone will take him to say, hey, you know what? If it's only going to cost me $12.5 million a year, fuck it, we'll take him. And then he'll go to some place like fucking Oakland, not say but something like that. He'll hit 50 homers. You'll have no pressure, and all of a sudden he stays healthy. Adonis stays healthy. I don't know. But really, that's how you. And then you give you guys some room, and then you go after the Bellinger. And even if we went after Bellinger, I would be okay with it.
Sure, of course. He's turned it around. Yeah, listen. Stanton's not going anywhere. Unfortunately, they're not going to eat that kind of money. He's not going to do that. He's shown he won't do it.
I know they didn't do it with Donaldson, and I'm
right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So to me, he's not going anywhere for at least another year. Unless somebody out there figures they can turn Stanton around, which I don't know anybody who could. I think that ship has passed. So, but it's going to be an interesting offseason for both teams. I don't like the dysfunction of the Mets at this point, but I think this gets completely turned around from the front office standpoint.
Tommy trying to catch a ball. I'm sorry.
Should be fun. Should be an interesting offseason for both teams. Let's get through the playoffs.
Oh my God. Oh man, seasons are over for fucking all teams. I want to smash my nuts with a fucking mallet.
Yeah,
I want to thank you, brother. We have some history. I've been to a lot of your tailgates, but I got to bring up a friend who has passed on, Brian Demmerhurst.
Demers, yes.
Who dated my sister years ago. He was actually in my wedding party as an usher.
Was he really, Joe?
Yeah. We love him, Miss Brian. But are you still doing tailgates?
I'm doing tailgates, and I'm doing a tailgate in his honor on November 6th. And,
okay.
We usually, he used to love Thanksgiving, so I deep fry turkeys, I make stuffing, rice, and bread stuffing, and all sorts of shit. And of course, I got to throw the Italian shit in. I'm making a pasta vajoli, which is not a soup. It's the way I make it is like a fucking stew. There's prosciutto in it.
That's the right way to make it. Exactly.
Right? What am I? What are we, fucking animals?
You turn it into a minestrone when you start putting with the water.
Yes.
It's got to be thick.
Watered down shit.
Yeah, it's got to be thick. It's a stew. That's, to me, is a pasta vajoli. That's the right way to go.
The Italian. We're all fucking bleeding the olive oil from our skin here.
Absolutely.
God bless.
Absolutely, God.
But
Columbus Day tomorrow, by the way, everybody. It ain't Indigenous Peoples Day. It's Columbus Day tomorrow.
It's Columbus Day. If you don't like it, fuck your mouth.
We want to thank our special guest, Carmine Glorioso. Carmine, we'll talk to you again down the road. From me and Tommy, thank you, brother, for this time today, man.
Gentlemen, it was pleasure, Joe. Pleasure, Tommy.
All right.
Well, my friends.
Love you, my friend.
Good stuff. All right.
That's Carmine Glorioso. Gave us a few minutes.
Yeah, he had some good points.
Yeah, I mean, Carmine comes at it from the fans' perspective. He's a diehard, but he's got an odd way of getting there sometimes.
Oh yeah,
but passionate about it. And listen, he one thing he'll tell you from the heart, and he's not going to sugarcoat it and pretend. So good for Carmine. But listen, Joe, this is definitely a big time for the Mets right now. Steve Cohen's thing. I mean, they got to get this front office, all this backdoor bullshit. They had it last year with Lindor and McNeil. There was talk this year that the clubhouse wasn't a good clubhouse. They got rid of two guys. There was some infighting, obviously, with Epler and Showalter. Now you got this whole scandal, which I don't believe is a real scandal. This all's got to get cleaned up, straightened out by the new regime. Quickly.
I think this is one of the biggest Mets off seasons in a long time. They, like you said, they gotta set this ship right because there's so many holes here from inside, players. But I think this is a very vital and pivotal time for the Mets on this offseason, like you said.
Yeah, 100%, Joe. So we'll see how it plays out for both teams. We'll be hopefully around a good part of the offseason and, kind of keep you up to date on it, guys, each week. A couple other things, Joe. We only got about 15 minutes left. I want to throw out that Tim Wakefield passes away. Knuckleball pitcher from the Boston Red Sox and Pittsburgh Pirates, and amongst a few teams. But passed away. I think the one thing I feel bad about is that Kurt Schilling kind of blurted that out there when it seems like that didn't we. Kurt Schilling's kind of a nut job.
Yeah,
Kurt Schilling was a heck of a pitcher, known as a knuckleballer. And, our condolences out to his family. I know his wife's very sick as well.
Yeah, she's sick too. I remember just mastered that pitch. I mean, if you watch that pitch, I mean, it was just, I'm sure a lot of people don't know that you don't catch a knuckleball pitcher with a regular catcher's mitt. You have to get a bigger catcher's mitt. You have to get a bigger, and a lot of catchers, I don't care how good they are, they just couldn't catch. That's why some of these knuckleball pitchers, they have their own catcher for him. It was just amazing how that thing moved, but that ball would just start and it wouldn't move. It wouldn't spin at all. Just a master of that pitch. Great. He won the World Series with the Red Sox a couple of times. And yeah,
And funny, Joe. I mean, he's in New York, especially, maybe a little in Boston. The guys remember for giving up the Aaron Boone home run in the extra inning in 2003. But the guy won 200 games in his career. I mean, it was 200 and 180, but the guy won 200 games in his career, and really was a good player. Was a one-time All-Star, two-time World Series champ. Won the Roberto Clemente Award in 2010, and a Red Sox Hall of Famer. So, a tragedy. He's still a young man, 50-something years old, dies of cancer. But yeah, will be always known as that knuckleball pitcher that would frustrate the crap out of you, and when it didn't work, it would sit over the plate like a batting practice fastball, and you'd see it get crushed. But condolences to the Boston Red Sox and to the Wakefield family.
That's the whole thing with we've talked about this already. I don't know on the show off the air. Hitters love the fastball. They love the 100. They can hit 104 miles an hour. They can't hit that movement. That's why they couldn't hit Maddox. Like you said, either it worked or it was going.
Oh yeah, no, one or the other, So yeah, but the other thing I want to bring up today, Joe, if you don't mind, is Trevor Bauer. That whole, again, everybody rushes to judgment, and I get it. And the guy's been suspended 350 games in baseball, unheard of. The Dodgers ran away from him. And it turns out that maybe the guy didn't do anything wrong, and not that Trevor Bauer was the nicest guy in the whole world. For all accounts, he's the biggest asshole in the world. But sometimes people should take a breath and let the process play out a little bit before just rushing to judgment and casting the guy off as a leper.
Yeah, wasn't he accused twice? But Tom,
I don't know if it was 2 times, Joe. I know the one time they came in, the pictures and this and that. And the guy said it never happened. And it turns out it looks like it didn't happen the way it did. The cops couldn't get enough evidence. She was misleading them. There's all sorts of crazy text messages and videos, her referencing his money and, I'm going to get in his money. And, so to me, that's kind of the problem today is, if he was a laborer, Joe, in the union, or if he worked in your job and he got accused of something, I don't think he'd get fired for it. Yeah. You let the process play out. If the guy goes to jail, I lose his job over it. That he's found guilty by his peers, but to immediately suspend him, immediately the Dodgers ran away from the guy, right, and made him a pariah for something that looks like he never did. Well, if I was him, I'd be suing everybody for it. I'd sue everybody.
Oh yeah, he's going to be lawyered up again in this one. But we always talk about these guys getting accused, and let's say a woman accuses a man. We always want that guy to get in trouble, but then when he's found innocent, shouldn't that accuser get in trouble? I mean,
well, I would say this. I would agree with you. Yes, I would say if you find out she made it up, she should go to jail. If they just can't prove it, and you don't know if he actually did or didn't, but there's not enough proof, I'd say the answer is no. But in this case, if she made this all up to get in his money, she should go to jail, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Patrick, I agree with you. I wouldn't have wanted him on the Yankees for all of this. The guy was a bit of a nut, wacko the whole bit. But having said that, nobody deserves to go through what he went through if it's not true. Nobody.
Absolutely.
So it's just something I want to throw up there. Joe, you got anything on your end?
We are live on Diamond Talk. Myself and Tommy Florio just talking about anything baseball. Talked about some Hall of Fame stuff. We talked about the races. We talked about the Mets and the Yankees again.
Well, I got one for you, Joe. If you want to throw out one more topic for tonight. We went through this with Conway, but where does it go? I mean, so Ohtani now is going to get 50-something million a year or $60 million a year for what? 8-10 years? Where does it end? I mean, because here's the problem I have with it, Joe. None of it works. So, if you showed me the 10-year, I mean, even Trout, who's a young man, 27 years old, you think, okay, he's 27. We signed him for a 10-year deal. Maybe we'll get 7 or 8 good years out of the guy. He's already been hurt. How many times? Hurt his wrist swinging the bat this year. At what point does, football did it. They were giving out all those big, huge rookie contracts, especially to the quarterbacks. And then they said, okay, that's got to stop. And none of it works, or most of it doesn't work. So we're going to put in a cap what guys can make coming out the box. So you're a first-round pick in this spot. You're going to make between this and this. And it's worked out better because you get a couple guys who fail on it, a couple guys do well on it, and they get to that second kind of at what point does the baseball team wake up and say, I can't give you 10 years?
Okay, great point. Here's my answer. You said the Angels make $1 million more a game with Ohtani?
Yes.
Okay. You get 81 home games, right, a year? 81?
Not per start. It's per when he pitches.
When he pitches, okay. So he
30
pitches.
start.
So I guess 30. Let's say they make 30 million more a year.
Yeah.
Oh, Tom, if you gave him 60, half of it's already paid because of him. So I don't think it's going to stop, because if the owner's saying, and they have all the analytics of talking to the guys behind the scenes, all the finances. Well, when he pitches, he makes $1 million, and the TV and this and that. So with a guy like Ohtani, do they really care about the 10 years? Because he's not going to be there, and he's making this money. He's making half it per start. So,
but that's just Ohtani, Joe. No other players doing that.
Oh,
so
yeah.
You gave Trout over $40 million a year. Trout is they don't win. That team never makes the playoffs. They've had him and Pujols, both of them had those huge contracts. It's gotten nowhere. So I get it, Patrick, that yes, TV money drives it, but how much realistically is Mike Trout, who's probably the best player in the game, potentially, who's got the biggest contract in the game, okay? Is he the face of baseball? He's not. He's not. So at what point do you have to go, I can't pay these guys for 10 years and not get anything back on the return? So I'm saying is that what can the brakes be pumped on this? Is it going to get to a point where you're paying guys for 15-year deals?
But like you say, again, how do we know that it's not going to work out for that team? Let's say they give Ohtani, which I think he's 30 years old now. Ohtani, I think he's 30.
I think so.
So I can't even fathom 10 years. He'll be 40 in a wheelchair probably. But let's say you give him 8 years. Let's say you gave him $60 million. Oh, that's $480. Let's make it $500 million so people are happy. 8 years, $500 million. They're probably saying to themselves, we're going to, like I know I said it before, what are they getting back each start and the sales? And then after a while, can you trade him and eat some of that? I don't know, but it's a guy like Ohtani, maybe you take a chance, but it's not. But these other guys, I don't know.
Well, that's the point, Joe. I mean, yeah, you want to take Ohtani as a special product. I get that. The guy is, he's rare, but maybe another 3 or 4 years that might not be the case. But with the rest of them, Cano, Stanton, Pujols, Trout, Judge, give me the contract that you could say somebody signed a guy to a 10-year deal and it worked out. He won a couple of championships. The team had major success because it has. Even Judge, I love Judge. I will guarantee that at the end of this contract, it's probably going to look back and go, it was a waste. But give me the one that works. I haven't seen it yet. I mean, Cole's got a long contract. Cole's a guy who's done a good job. He's probably the one guy I would say so far has done a good. But what has it turned into World Series wins? It hasn't. So
Right.
To me, the 10-year deal is a bust. Pay the guys more money a year, but do it for 4 or 5 years. And if I'm the player, I take that. I take it. Because 5 years from now, if you're trying, you took a 5-year deal for 40 or 50 million, and you're successful, you're 32 years old. You get another 5-year deal.
Robinson Cano. What happened with that one?
Yeah, that's my point. So here's a guy who got paid basically $40 million to sit home for 2 years. I mean, it's the biggest detriment because it hurts teams later on. The Yankees are hurting right now because of the Stanton money. They don't want to. It's a spot on the roster. It's $98 million, on their books for the next 3 or 4 years, and it's preventing them. That same thing's going to happen to the Mets if they sign Pete Alonso for that kind of money for that kind of time. and you can't let emotions get into it. You just can't. If you're an owner, and you got to read the room down the road, because not everybody's going to be dumb like the Yankees that take Stanton's contract off your hands.
Right. Do you want to older Trout on the Yankees?
I would take Trout now as a Yankee, sure, but he comes with the baggage. He's got 7 or 8 years left on a $40 million contract. That, again, is Mike Trout a Hall of Famer? Mike Trout could quit today. He's probably a Hall of Famer. I mean, it's just, he's been the best player in baseball for a long time right now, and he's got 3 MVPs. Mike Trout's a Hall of Fame baseball player. The problem is he doesn't stay healthy. His contributions have not done anything to make that team a better team, and I don't know why. And beyond that, Joe, he's not even the face of baseball. I mean, here's a guy who's got 3 MVPs. He's one of the most talented players I've ever seen, and Aaron Judge is probably the face of baseball.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. You're in California. It ain't like he's in Milwaukee or in Kansas City. He's in California, one of the biggest markets out there, and he can't be the face of baseball. There's something there that's just not right, and I don't know what it is.
Right. Yeah, I don't know either. Yeah, he's in California. It's a big. I don't know what him. I don't know where he. What he does. I don't know if I see Ohtani staying with the Angels. I think he's going to want to. And we keep saying the Dodgers. Dodgers. I got Texas in my head because they got money, but I don't see him staying there.
See, I don't think it's a money issue, Joe. I think he's going to get the money no matter where he goes. I think the question for him is, I think it's the West Coast because it's closer to Japan. If you're on the East Coast, you're not watching his games as much, and he's getting a lot of tourists, and it's a quick jump home for him from that side of the coast. I think the Padres have to be on the mix. I think obviously the Dodgers with their money, and I think they're going to go full bore for the guy. I would be surprised if he winds up on the East Coast. Now, he's said out loud he likes Boston, so I don't know what that means. So I don't see him coming to New York, although if I'm the Yankees, I'm getting Hideki Matsui and a whole bunch of those guys to go to his house and have sushi with him and talk to how great New York is. But if it's money, I think Cohen locks him up. I think if it's strictly about money, Cohen may get him. And
Cohen just give him a blank check, probably.
Yeah, I think, and I think a guy like that, Joe, might be worth it for a while. I think for 4 or 5 years as a pitcher, in New York, if they have any sort of success, that guy is just going to be the talk of the universe. The problem is if he comes here and he's not, you're going to eat that contract for a very long time. And I don't care how much money you got. No owner wants to look that dumb making that move.
Yeah, you look at I don't know how the Mets do with their attendance if they sell every game out, but you got to figure. I'm sorry, any team that gets him, you're gonna every team you're just gonna have everything much different. You're gonna have sellouts. Yeah.
He's an attraction, Joe, and that's fine. He's an attraction, and there's nothing wrong with that. And if the numbers are right, and they're making an extra $1 million every time he pitches, it's a factor in it. The problem is you have to say, well, next year he's not pitching. It's probably into the following season before he's back as a pitcher. And then here's the other problem. So as a fielder, the guy's running the bases, pulls a hamstring. You just lost your pitcher, your best pitcher, and your best hitter, all in one shot. So you just took out 2 players with one. So it's a very tenuous thing. I would just say, buyer beware. If you're gonna give that guy that kind of contract, which she's gonna. This is a shot right here because he's in his 30s. This is his big contract. He's going to get big dollars, and that's fine. I think you can make back a bit of his money, like we said, but you got it. The rest of these guys, the Sotos of the world, all these guys who got these big deals, Harper. I don't know how many of them have actually worked out, Joe. So I think that's something that baseball's got to look at for themselves.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I think he gets over $500 million. That's just my guess.
Joe, I don't think you're wrong. I do think he breaks the bank. I think what you're going to see is he's going to have a big deal, and the first year is going to be tight money because he's not pitching, and then after that, the money jumps up. I agree with you. I think you're in the $50 to $55 million range a year for 10 years. So I would agree with you. It's somewhere in that ballpark. he's definitely getting bigger than Trout and Judge. So it's a matter of how close to 50 he can get. I think it's going to be close.
And I think he wants to be the highest player in sports history. I think Mahomes has 502 on his contract. So, he's going to want to. I understand. Guys, we had a tremendous show today. We had a great guest in Carmine Glorioso. For myself and my partner, Tommy Florio, we thank you for this time again on Diamond Talk. Tom, great show, brother. I'll see you in a little while.
You got it.
All right.
You got it, Joe. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next Sunday morning right here, 8 o'clock. Diamond Talk. Joe Gansas, Tom Florio. Joe, you're the best, bro. I'll see you in a little bit.
I'll see you in a little bit. Great show. Thanks, guys.